everyone, this is Chris with Gen X Life is Good. Today is day 4 of my self-experiment with the do-it-yourself fasting mimicking diet. And the big news today is I was not hungry. No headache, no hunger. So that actually felt really good. I was working away and I looked at my watch and I'm like, wow, it's 2:30. I guess I better have lunch. So that was pretty amazing. Ketone levels all day were in the small range, although right before lunch, which was about 16 hours after I took my dinner, they were definitely closer to the moderate range. I mean, as I explained yesterday, with the color palette on the tube, it's kind of hard to tell. It's never exactly that color, so sometimes it's between colors. So today I was definitely in ketosis. And even right after lunch, I measured an hour and a half after lunch, after my snack. So I think I'm there. And the fact that I wasn't hungry and that my family had pizza for dinner as I was chopping my meager amount of vegetables for tomorrow, and that didn't bother me, that's saying a lot actually. Not that I didn't enjoy my lunch today. I actually did. The kale smoothie was very good. I may have to make that again. Today I've decided to make a hash with my butternut squash and my potatoes. You can see that here. So potatoes, butternut squash, and a little bit of kale for color. As my mom always says, the eyes eat too, so you got to make it look appealing. And then today I have a cucumber salad for dinner along with the hash. So that'll be dinner once I'm done with you guys. And I'll quickly show you what I have for tomorrow, and then I want to talk a little bit about one of the macros. So tomorrow I'm going to do a different kind of salad. I will have a tomato and pepper salad. Green peppers chopped up, tomatoes, I'll put a little fresh basil in there. I'll do olive oil and lemon dressing again. Probably with maybe a hint of dried Italian seasoning in addition to the fresh basil. And then I'll have 2 of my potatoes with that. Snack tomorrow, flax seeds, which I should tell you guys, I'm trying to chew these really well because all the benefits in flax seeds are really inside these kernels. So if you just chomp once or twice and swallow them whole, it's a good chance they'll go through your digestive tract whole and without any of the benefits. So typically you would want to grind these up, but I have 5 grams here, like 1/6 of an ounce or something. So that's not going to work well in a grinder. I could grind a larger quantity and then measure it out. But given that I don't eat a lot, I figure, here I'll enjoy every single seed and I'll chomp down on it. It's fun at work in the afternoon. So flax seeds, I have, whoops, here goes some of my pumpkin seeds. And I have 4 halves of macadamia nuts, yes. I will enjoy every single one of those. And then tomorrow for dinner, we're going to do probably another soup. Cauliflower, a couple little potatoes, a little coconut oil. The olive oil I have for lunch, I'm going to divide. Some of it is going to go into the dressing for lunch. Some of it is going to be part of my dinner. And then I have carrots, butternut squash, and tomorrow I have zucchini, which I haven't had before, and a little bit of coconut oil. So those of you who've been watching this every day will probably wonder if I am just an avid fan of butternut squash, because butternut squash has featured pretty prominently every single day. The reason is, I like it as much as I like any other veggie, but the reason is that butternut squash is very high in carbs and very low in protein. When I was putting together my nutrition tracker, and I think I showed this to you guys before, and I realize you can't see this, but there's tons of foods with all their nutrients, macro and micronutrients, all the vitamins and minerals, everything in here. When I put this together, I actually followed Dr. Longo's patent, which calls out exactly what percentages you need of each, but it also calls out what the Prolon diet uses in terms of foods. So, obviously you could read the Prolon ingredient list and just go by that as well, but I went by the patent. And every food that was listed in the patent, I put in my tracker, figuring if he's using it, let me see how it works with this. Obviously a little bit different because I'm using fresh foods. He uses the foods, that he needs to dry everything, so the nutrient balance is going to be very different. I'm trying to get most of my micronutrients with fresh food, certainly as many of the vitamins as I can and the minerals. He says somewhere, I forget if it's in one of the patents, that I think he says at least 50% of the micronutrients come from real food, or 51%, over 50%, I think he says. So to me that means 49% probably don't come from food, which means they're synthetic. So I'm trying to be a lot closer to 80, 90, 100% or so. So anyway, so I'm using his foods in addition to a couple of others, and one of the foods that he listed was butternut squash, which I really hadn't considered when I originally thought about the diet. And then once I started tweaking this tracker, I realized that it's really not that easy. This is probably considered not a high carb diet just because your overall number of carbs per day is fairly low. But if you look at the percentage of the carbs as a percentage of your total, 47% of the total on days 2 through 5, that's quite a bit. And the protein is really low. So, coming from at this with the mindset of the ketogenic diet, which I tried out a little while ago just to see what it was like, where you count every carb, this was like, wow, I can have potatoes, I can have butternut squash, I'm in heaven. And then you realize a lot of these veggies also have a lot of protein, right? Kale has a lot of protein, Brussels sprouts have a lot of protein, broccoli has a lot of protein. So I'm forever tweaking things in order not to go over on the protein. Protein is the one thing on this diet that you're very, very low on. Only 9% of your overall daily calories come from protein. Now, the reason I think is that when Dr. Longo did his longevity studies in the blue zones around the world where the most centenarians live, people who are 100, 110 years old, and he was studying the way they were living, one of the factors he looked at was diet. And it appears that none of these blue zones have people on a ketogenic diet, high fat, low carb, low protein. But all of these centenarians had in common that they were eating, a reasonable amount of carbs, not refined processed carbs, not white bread, not pasta necessarily, but lots of vegetables, which obviously do have carbs, including legumes, including potatoes. Okinawa is one of the blue zones, for instance, and the staple food there for many years, for many decades, not today, but 40, 50 years in the past, was purple potatoes. So anyway, he found that a lot of these people ate a reasonable amount of carbs, but were fairly low in protein, and mainly vegetable protein, legumes, or what is naturally in, the kales, the Brussels sprouts, the broccolis, and so forth. Animal protein in the form of fish and very occasionally meat was only eaten rarely, sort of the poor man's diet. So he adopted that for his longevity diet, and then he also showed in a number of studies, and not just him, the other studies have been done as well, that protein leads to a rise in IGF-1. When you eat carbs, your body manufactures glucose, and then insulin, the hormone insulin, is pumped into the body in order to not make the glucose toxic for your body, right? When you eat protein, when that gets broken down, your body manufactures IGF-1, which is insulin-like growth factor. So it's something that you want when you're young. Obviously, you want to grow. It's also something you want when you want to build muscle, right? So people who do a strenuous gym workout want to come home and have a steak or something high protein, right? That's where the protein shakes come in, because you want to build muscle. However, if you eat a lot of protein and it's not going into building, it does other things in the body that may not be so good. So Longo, for instance, cites a study by the, see if I get this right now, the National Center for Health Statistics, I think, It's a study that was done, an associative study, so a survey basically, that was done with over 6,000 men and women from all over the United States, all different socioeconomic groups and so forth, where people were surveyed as to the type of diet they had, and then they were observed for a number of years to see what kind of diseases they contracted. Was it diabetes, cancer, various other metabolic diseases. And it turns out that for people under the age of 65, people who had a high protein intake, which was 20% of their daily calories or more, had a hugely increased risk for cancer and other mortality causes. People with a moderate amount of protein, 10 to 19% of their daily calories, also had a pretty large increase. And the people who did best were the people who had the lowest amount of protein. So that, I think, led him, and I'm speculating here, but I think that led him to formulate the fasting mimicking diet with a very low percentage of protein, right? Higher percentage of carbs, higher percentage of fat, and a low percentage of protein. So all that to say, that is why I have a lot of butternut squash in my diet, because along with potatoes, it's one of the veggies that gives you a lot of bang for your buck in terms of high carb, low protein. All right, so I'm going to go eat now, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow on the last day of the fasting mimicking diet, and I'll report back how everything went. Bye for now.